What's good, people? This isn't gonna be about video games. This is gonna be a serious talk, and I'm gonna go personal with you guys. I appreciate you guys. I would appreciate if you stick around, because I'm going to be talking about some shit that has affected my life, and it's going to relate to a lot of people, because one day each of us are gonna have to face things like this, and what I'm gonna be talking about is death. A year ago to this day, one of my best friends, Raphael, was hit by a car and put into a coma for 11 days. He unfortunately passed away on September 6th. August 22nd is when he got hit, and I'm on my way to the street. The street is near my house, and the reason they were on that street was they were heading to my place. That day that they got hit, they were hanging out at the park, playing soccer. They invited me, and I just had no interest in going, to be honest. One of the reasons I didn't want to go is because it was one of those days where you just want to stay in bed and watch TV and shit. But another reason was it was their first week of high school and I was into college. And I had this stupid, selfish fucking thing where I didn't want to go hang out with a lot of youngins, you know what I'm saying? I didn't want to feel like the chaperone, like the older guy hanging out with young guys. It was such a stupid way of thinking, but I just didn't want to do it, and I terribly regret it, because they were heading to my house that day. It was a fine day, normal. So what happened was my friend left his key, so his mom came to drop off the key. They walked on the street. This is not a crazy thing, especially on that street, because that street is empty, basically. It leads to nowhere. It just leads to a left turn, so you could go back to the normal street. It's a street where I used to skate. It's a street where I learned how to drive. It's a dead street. There's, an occasional car here and there, but that car will yield. That car will switch lanes. It's a chill street. So walking on the street's not nothing new. Me and the kid who was gonna get the key, we used to skate there all the time. So they're gonna get the key. I believe the friend who was getting the key and another friend were in the middle of the street, and the two who got hit were actually on the grass. They crossed, and within an instant they were hit and went flying. One survived, thankfully. He's still with us, and I'm so glad he made it. But my other friend, he didn't make it. The one who made it had a couple broken bones. He made it out just fine. He recovered within a month or two. But like I said, 11 days in a coma. And the sad thing about this whole situation was my friend who passed was the nice guy. He was the best. He was the nicest guy you ever meet. And I'm not just saying this to kiss ass or anything. I'm just speaking the truth. He was a Catholic. And when I say Catholic, I mean a real Catholic. Not one of these Catholics who say they're Catholic and they don't really practice what they preach. This man went to church, I believe, every week. There'd be times where he'd be hanging out with us, and he'd dip to go to church and dip to do his church duties. He was just a man of God. This guy wouldn't sin. He didn't drink, didn't smoke, didn't curse. I only heard him curse once in my 7 years of knowing this man. And he was just a thoughtful, intelligent, bright young man. And it's sad that he had to pass, because there's a lot of people in that high school that I went to who, it wasn't a bad high school, but there's a lot of people who did drugs, sold drugs, drunk at a young age, 14-year-old girls losing their virginities in bathrooms, just sinning, basically. I'm not a religious person, but for those who believe in God, they were doing things that God wouldn't really approve of, especially at that age. Well, my friend Rafa, he did everything right. He followed God's word, and look at what happened to him. It's just, the world is crazy, man. It's not fair sometimes, but we have to live with it. That's just life. It's a sad thing, man, and it was fucking terrible. I felt guilty as fuck. I went to the scene covered in like 2 layers of caution tape. I couldn't really get to see him. He actually got a heliport. He actually got taken out through helicopter, which was the sad thing. So when I went to visit them in the hospital, I first saw my friend William, who survived. I just felt like shit. Seeing my friend wrapped up like that, man, it was not a pretty sight. Especially because I kind of felt at guilt. And then when I went to see Raphael, that man, he was living on a machine. I don't consider that living. That's why I feel that his unofficial death was August 22nd, because that is when his soul was pretty much like holding on within a pinky or with a finger, holding onto his body. That's how I feel. Okay, I'm approaching the street right now. Oh man. Fuck, man. A year ago. It's been a freaking year, man. So I visited him twice in the hospital. Cried every time. I just couldn't look without crying. It's just, words can't describe how bad it is seeing your friend not being able to talk, not being able to do anything. Friend, family, whatever, enemy, it's not a cool sight, no matter who it is. And from him being such a good guy, I just don't think it was fair. One thing I left out was the kid who was on the street, who only got hit on the foot, I believe on the leg. He saw the man was looking down on his phone, the man who was driving. So my second message is to not text and drive. Texting and driving to me is just stupid. I fucking hate people who do this, because let's say I'm going to work. The person who is texting could hold back traffic up to 10 seconds. 10 seconds count when you're late to work. And also, texting and driving could cause people's lives to be lost. You don't play around with people's lives like that, man. Death is no laughing matter. Life is too precious for bullshit like that. So let me get back to the story. I visited him the following week, same reaction. I didn't think he was gonna pass away. But when news hit, my mom woke me up. I was just laying in bed, and then she comes up to me, she says, he passed. And at first I couldn't deal with it. I couldn't really process it. I didn't realize until I went downstairs, then went back upstairs, and for some reason it hit me, and the tears came out, and they wouldn't stop. They didn't fucking stop. And that same day I had to go pick up my college textbooks, right? So I went to pick up the books, and then I get a call from my dad. He was just calling to check up on me. And then he asked if I was okay, and I said no. And then the tears came back. I'm there trying to hold them back. All these people around me, all of my peers looking at me. I just had to go to the bathroom and let it out. When I came out, they were still flowing. I just couldn't stop. That entire day was spent crying, reminiscing, thinking about the legacy that this man left. This was a guy who always wanted to, he always wanted to be a senior. I remember being a sophomore, and him as a freshman say, how's it like to be a sophomore? How's it like to be a junior? How's it like to be a senior? He was one of those guys. He was just a very eager man who wanted to grow up. He was looking forward to life. And sadly, he never lived that life. He never got to finish his life, and his life ended abruptly. This shit is just not fair. So a couple days pass, his funeral, the day of his funeral. So I go there, and I see his coffin. You could tell that he's been gone. Just the freshness of his skin. There's something, I don't know what to call it, but his skin just looked dead. It was dry, ashy. He couldn't react. He was just laying still. He did not resemble the man I knew. He just looked gone. It was not a pretty sight. And of course I cried. Of course I mourned. Of course we talked about the positive things that happened with him. And I know we all have to face death. Some people face death from more important people in their lives, like their parents or their children. But to me, the saddest thing about this whole thing was his death and also the reaction of his parents, because remember, he was an only child and he was his parents' life. His parents' everything. That is, their life revolved around him. Now, without him, their life has changed. Their life is different. Life without your son, your baby. It's not easy to live like that, man. I still feel an empty part of my life with him not in it. Imagine if he was my son. A son's like 50, 60, 70% of your life. And that chunk of your life is gone. Because one man decided to text someone. Think about it. So, here's one thing that I definitely find messed up about this whole death situation with my friend. So, when he gets hit, him and his friend get hit, and my friend actually, the media, they got the story wrong. When they reported the story, they were saying some type of thing where they're like, okay, 2 teenagers were hit by a motorist here in Florida. It seems that they were both driving a car, then suddenly they got out and then got struck by a car. Who knows what these teenagers were up to? Insinuating that my friends, clean motherfuckers, guys who didn't do shit that was against the law, clean motherfuckers, they were insinuating that they were up to no good, that they got out of the car and they got hit, and it was their fault. The media led people to believe that. And I've heard stories where people were slandering my friends, saying, what the hell were those kids doing? What the hell were they doing trying to get out of the car in the middle of the street? Why were they messing around like that? So now people assume that they were drinking, that they were on drugs. You got people getting the story completely fucking confused. And a lot of people believe that's how they went out. So their legacy, Rafa's legacy, was fucking tarnished because of the fucking bullshit news reporters' bias against teenagers. Yes, bias. There's a fucking bias against teenagers. Teenagers in cars, they automatically assume it was up to no good when it was not their car. I don't think any of them even had licenses at the time. And they just assumed that they got out of the car. A friend of mine, I don't know why he didn't say anything. He overheard 2 bitches say that it was their fault that they got killed, that they shouldn't have gotten out of the fucking car. But they got the story completely fucking wrong because the bullshit fucking media. I can't trust outlets like that anymore. I just can't. After doing that to my friend who did nothing wrong. And he was just a great guy. I miss him so much. It's been a year. I can't believe it. Life is still good, but it's different. It's a different kind of good. It's just not the same. There's always a little piece in my life, a little piece of my crew that's always going to be missing. And I don't think that piece in the puzzle will ever be put back. 7 years this guy was my friend, man. And the saddest thing about his death was his last text messages were to me, were like, hey dude, come on man, get over here. We need you, man. We need to chill, man. Come on, get to the park, man. All right, we're heading to your house. Those are basically his last messages, man. So he was a good friend even the day he died. And I was fucking with that. You know, you don't expect things like this to happen. When I got the call that they got hit, I thought it was a joke. But it wasn't. And it was right basically in my backyard. Do I feel guilty? A little, yes, but it's not my fault. Life is like a test that has no redos. Once you put the answer, you got one chance and that's it. It's not multiple choices, not multiple ways that you could do and rewind and do this. We don't have extra lives, it's just one. You dig? It's just one. Like, there are cars right there. I'm surprised these motherfuckers weren't street racing. Because this is that type of street that you street racing. And now they fucking paused. I'm gonna start heading home, man. And you know, a good thing about this thing was he was a PlayStation fan. Yes, this is a gaming channel. I'm gonna try to relate this to gaming. He was a PlayStation fan, right? And we didn't have any beefs with that. I'm pure Xbox, and most of my friends are pretty much pure PlayStation. But we didn't have any problems with that. It wasn't an issue. We were just friends, man. This console war shit is a joke. It's just for fun. It's something that we do just to mess around on the internet to pass the time. In real life, the shit doesn't exist. My friends and I, we don't do this shit. And it's just a preference. I didn't disrespect his preference, he didn't disrespect mine. And we just went on with our days, man. We talked about everything, even gaming, and we disagreed sometimes, man, but that doesn't matter. So my final thoughts are, don't text and drive, number one. Number two, death is no joking matter. Even if someone you don't like dies, don't fuck around with that. It's not funny. Someone's son died, probably someone's parent died, someone's mother died, you know. That person must have been important to someone else. And that person must be devastated. I'm devastated still to this day, man. Oh, man. Still fucking depressed. And one thing that this death did to me, it changed in my character, was it made me a little bit more sensitive to shit. Like, I never cried in movies before. Now, I almost cried in Straight Outta Compton, believe it or not, man. Eazy-E, when he was in a coma, that reminded me of when my friend was in a coma, and me visiting him and not being able to talk to him and say what I wanted to say to him before he left, man. And movies like World's Greatest Dad, seeing a parent, Robert Williams did a great job, rest in peace to him. He did a great job showing the pain of losing your son. And it was absolutely believable. And trust me, the tearing eyes of a mother who just lost her son is the worst. I can't help but cry when I see something like that, man. It's just, I've become more caring. And a lesson of this is, don't take advantage of your friends. Don't fuck around with your friendships like that, man. Don't take them for granted. That's what it is. Don't do that. Because it might be the last day. They could die, or maybe you could die. You never know. So take advantage of your time, especially when you're young like myself, or you're a young man like me. Don't, use your time wisely and make the best out of your fucking friendships, because they don't last forever. They don't. Just like our lives, man. So you gotta live on even after death. You can't keep always looking back, but every day I make sure I think about him once, at least once a day. Make sure to think about my boy Rafa, and I make sure not to take life for granted, man. Make the best out of it. This is something different, something that I really needed to say, something that I really needed to get off my chest, man. It's been a year. I made a similar video to this, I believe about a month after the accident, but since it's been a year, I had to take the time to give him my basically 20 minutes, because my boy Rafa deserves it, man. He's up there in heaven, if there is a heaven, looking down at me, and I hope I make a good example for you if you're younger, and if you're older, I hope you feel the same way that I do, because I just feel what I'm saying is right now, man. So yeah, screw the media, screw the people who text and drive, screw those who fuck around with death like this, who make fun of it, man, and just be positive, especially about this, because as much dark as there is in life, there's always going to be obviously going to be light. I'm just trying to be philosophical right now. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, man. But yeah, rest in peace, Rafa. He died at age 17. Oh man, he had such a bright life ahead of him.